The room was dark and quiet, filled only by the even breathing of the sleeping girl. The camera was recording her sleep when something strange began to happen. The blanket slowly slid down, as if pulled by an invisible hand. The girl tossed and turned in her sleep, unsure what was happening. A moment later, a barely perceptible noise was heard, as if someone were sliding nearby. The ghost pulled the blanket again, then touched her shoulder. The touch made her jerk sharply, her eyes opening slightly. A few more seconds, and the girl was fully awake. She sat up in bed, stunned, and only then realized this wasn't a dream. Something had awakened her. Her heart was pounding, and an icy fear ran through her body. Farm, the man had gotten used to checking everything through the surveillance cameras. One day, while reviewing the footage, he noticed something strange. A white figure flashed among the barns. It moved quickly and disappeared into the darkness, leaving behind only a blur on the screen. At first, he thought it was a camera glitch, but a feeling of uneasiness persisted. Later, going outside, the man took out his phone and decided to film what was happening himself. And then everything was confirmed. Something white appeared again in the lens. It glided between the buildings, as if watching him. The silhouette was silent, unreal, and unlike either an animal or a human. Now he had two pieces of evidence, from the cameras and from his phone. This meant that something truly haunted the farm, something undecipherable. A ghost had made itself known. Bedroom camera captured a couple sleeping peacefully next to each other. Everything seemed normal until suddenly the woman began twitching, her body bent at odd angles, her movements jerky and unnatural, as if someone were controlling them from outside. The man slept and didn't notice, while she thrashed, as if she were struggling internally. The footage shows her face distorting, her breathing becoming ragged. It seemed as if something alien had possessed her at that moment. And just as suddenly as it began, it ended. The woman went limp, as if released, and fell silent again in bed. Those who saw the footage are certain it wasn't just a dream or a convulsion. A ghost briefly possessed her body and left behind only cold fear. Japan installed surveillance cameras to feel safe, but what they showed scared him more than any burglar. First, a dark, brutish figure appeared in the footage from the vestibule. It stood motionless against the wall, as if waiting for the owner to emerge. A few days later, cameras inside the apartment recorded the same thing. A black apparition walked through the rooms, its silhouette tall and jagged, as if woven from thick shadow. The footage showed it approaching, as if stalking the man, wherever he went. These recordings became proof. His home had become a haven for something eerie, and now the ghost not only lurks in the vestibule, but also roams freely throughout the apartment, watching his every move. Was silent, except for the laundry room camera monitoring the space. The footage showed a pale shadow flickering in the glass doors. It appeared only for a second, but its outline was too human-like to be attributed to a reflection. A moment later, the silence was broken by something else. The nightstands began to open. First, one door lifted slightly, then the other slid open, as if tugged from the inside. There was no one in the room, but the movement was forceful, as if an invisible hand were rummaging through the things. These images clearly showed that something was living in the house, something that wasn't hiding. It was making itself known and using everything around it to remind everyone that it was there. That evening, laughing and filming each other on their phones. Everything was fun until one of them's camera captured something strange. A black figure suddenly appeared behind his friend. The outline was blurry and elongated, as if a shadow had condensed into a human silhouette. The child holding the phone immediately screamed, and the others jumped back in horror. video shows the figure appearing for just a few seconds, then vanishing, as if dissolving into thin air. But the children's reaction was genuine. Laughter instantly turned to screams. When the adults reviewed the footage, there was no doubt. Something dark really did appear behind the child, and it couldn't have been a figment of his imagination.